Oh, it started. What? What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Arm yourselves, life stuff. This will probably be a shorter video because it's more of a test. But with the way Israel is getting set up as a boogeyman, as a catch-all for everything you dislike about the world, probably because Israel, and I'm not a big fan of Israel, is, I think, gonna take a fall to cover for the true enemies of existence, the demonic cabal of whoever they are. You should always be suspicious of acceptable boogeymen, especially when Joe Dipshit is in on hating them. A boogeyman can be a boogeyman and still be a patsy. It's all about where your focus or where society's focus is being directed, some sleight of hand shit. And people are always talking about the way you can't criticize Israel, you can't even talk about Jews, you can't say the word Jew. I think you can, both because people are always criticizing Israel and Jews, while acting like they're not allowed to. I think you are allowed to, and I think you're encouraged to, actually. Because as long as you are focusing on the scarecrow, then actual villains can do whatever they want. So, what we're doing with this video, one, we're gonna test and see if you can speak frankly about Jews. Full monetization. I think you can, but maybe I'm wrong. And also, Jews are part of the United States' national concept, which, the concept of a national concept, maybe we aren't ready to speak openly and frankly about that yet. But if you believe in the mythology of your nation and the spirit of your nation, you can't deny American Jews and their role in the mythology and spirit of our nation. The same way some Italians weren't too crazy about the role of Catholicism in Italy, but they embraced it anyway because of the national concept. Today, let's make some observations about American Jews. American subcategory Jewish. Divorced from Israel talk and memes. Now, I deal with a lot of Jews thanks to my job, but they're mostly the older generations. My experience with the younger generations is a little more limited, but patterns are similar. It's the reactions to the patterns that are a bit different. Now, first and foremost, if you're building a Jewish character in a game, an American Jewish character in a game, you need to pick a coast. Because it seems like wherever you come from, or whatever state you come from, American Jews lean California or they lean New York in their thinking and attitudes, even if they're from Kansas. And what it boils down to is, are you douchey or are you pushy? And this is more of a flavor. Do you have the businessy, sarcastic thing going on? Or do you have the I know what I'm talking about and I'm better than this thing going on? And to clarify, while we're going through the general stuff, Zoomer American Jews are a bit odd, but we'll get to them when we get to generations. They don't follow these trends as much. It feels like there is a Jewish concentrate. It's strongest in Jewish boomers, and it's usually almost, undetectable in Jewish Zoomers. Now, another thing I've noticed Jews do is they'll talk a lot about politics, which you could say is something most Americans do. And in popular consciousness, American Jews are stereotyped as liberal. I haven't found that to be the case. And I don't think they're even concerned with politics per se, or with virtue signaling as such. It's more like affiliation signaling, because they are always signaling but what they're signaling isn't always virtue. American Jews seem very concerned with tribal affiliation. And it's interesting because, as intense as they can get about it, particularly the older ones, I don't think they're necessarily looking for you to agree with them with your heart and soul. What they're looking for is whether or not you will go along with them. You look at someone like me, you look at the way I dress, you look at my office. I feel, at least, it's very clear what I am. Or at least what people will probably conclude I am. But always, when I'm interacting with a new American Jew, an unfamiliar American Jew, always, they will reference something niche and political and polarizing as if it's agreeing with whatever they think is obvious, and as if I already agree with them. And all you need to do once they do this is agree with them and be able to sell it at least a little bit, even if it's obvious, really obvious, you don't agree, at least going by appearances. They don't care. I don't know why they don't care. Maybe it is a headache tester thing or an affiliation tester thing, but it feels like they're always testing affiliation and they're always concerned with affiliation. And in terms of American ethnicities, my Jewish connections tend to be more positive and more productive than my connections with other ethnicities are. White people, white people, they're always waiting for an excuse to stab you in the back. Black people are less Judasy, but at the same time, they don't do a lot. They're good in terms of social politics, for making it seem like a lot is going on. Also with black connections, I don't feel like they're scamming me, but I always feel like I'm going to get scammed when I am helping them on their shit. Don't have a ton of Hispanic connections, unfortunately. Asians are like a weird mix of white and black, even though, as St. O'Neill said in the race war, Asians chose white. Jews, when you're looking at it materially, are mostly positive. Once either you're affiliated with them or they feel you won't challenge their affiliations, they're very generous. Jews will back you up on things, Jews will send you resources or make you aware of opportunities. Very kind and smart if you can get past the affiliations thing. And I wonder if that's what keeps Jews down, because they seem very prone to infighting. Because you think about higher level Jews' enemies, and I don't know who you think their enemies would be, but I would expect them to be important in some way, but that's rarely the case. It's always just some mirror-matched other Jew you don't know. That's their rival. Someone who is basically identical and also probably irrelevant to this situation, but they need you to know this person is an enemy and you need to watch out for them. So you get past the gang affiliation thing and they're loyal, they're giving. Emotionally exhausting. Very pushy. Don't have a great concept of boundaries once they feel they are close to you or you're allied. And it seems like Jews feel like they need to have an opinion about everything, and they need to tell you about it, in a way that feels like they are expecting you to act on this opinion they are sharing with you, that you didn't ask for. And they're still, even once you are technically allied with them or you've proven you will go along with them, they never stop testing affiliation, signaling affiliation, expecting it to be reciprocated. Ergo, I never feel 100% at ease, because I know they're allied insofar as I am associated with them or I will go along with them. They are helping, they're being loyal to this affiliation, not to me, quotes. Now, I've never been betrayed by a Jew as long as I keep my affiliation or going alongness with them up, but it is uncomfortable. Even when you have a place among them, you never feel like you do. Probably because you don't. And again, that is most intense with the boomer Jews. Zoomer Jews are different, and we'll get to them. I meant to do this in a few general things and then specifics according to generations format, but we flip-flopped it. Despite how hated American Jews are popularly, I've found they're very good at winning people over, getting people to like them, getting people to do things they want them to do, and stereotypically, very good at money. It's a stereotype, it's terrible. In my experience, if you want to know how to succeed at something financially, you ask a Jew because they probably know how to do it really well. But what's interesting to me is this lack of organization, which you think wouldn't go hand in hand with being really good at things and knowing how to earn money doing things. But almost none of the Jews I know are organized at all. Organization is a big problem for them, even as they succeed at whatever it is they're doing. Which is another thing that makes them emotionally exhausting when you are dealing with them, because as pushy as they are, they're also disorganized to the verge of disaster. And disaster from their disorganization will strike you if you aren't careful, but it never seems to strike them for some reason. Really tiring. If you need to get something done, better you get them on board with the idea, and then you work with their people, because if they've succeeded to a point, they almost certainly have people. Well, actually, that's another older generation's thing. That's more of a boomer Gen X thing. The younger ones seem not to as much. But you work with their people. Black people are good team players once they have personally bought in. White people, or at least modern white people, it's weird. It feels like they exist mostly for economic purposes, which racially is a shame. Do you like the fact you exist primarily to gather resources so those resources can be extracted from you? Do you like your own apathy, your own complacency, and your traitorous instinct? If on the side this video is also about race in America, I'm deeply disappointed in white people. Are you comfortable being an unpleasant sock puppet your entire life? Anyway, with American Jews, let's get into the generations. And we'll start with the boomers. American Jewish boomers act like they know better than everybody else does. About pretty much everything. They've done it all, they've seen it all, they know better than you, and of the generations, I mentioned earlier the concentrate, of American Jews, they are the American Jewiest. Which is to say, they are the most emotionally exhausting, but also the loyalist and the most helpful, as long as you uphold your end of their bargain. And it is their bargain. They self-identify as Democrats or Republicans, which is strange because even people today who are still party-brained in terms of vernacular, now they refer to themselves as liberal or conservative, because things have gotten vague and fucky. But I think it's because boomers, Jewish boomers, they like the affiliation, they like the partiness, they also like the conflict. Really exhausting. Especially when you need to fluff them up, let's say, when they are fluffing themselves up. But if you can deal with that, they will help you more than most people will. And although they haven't seen or done as much, or at least to the degree they talk like they have seen and done a lot. And Jewish advice is usually better than other races' advice. And again, when you're affiliated with them, they are generous, and boomer Jews in the resource game have a lot of resources. I'm not saying you should intentionally play them because that's pathetic on your part. It's also a power play if you let them help you. But wealth and opportunity feel magnetic. And if there are boomer Jews you are cool with, you'll notice over time in small ways certain things start going better for you. Gen X American Jews, very similar to the boomers. I've noticed they lean more into the douchey or businessy pushy coastal thing than the boomers do, but otherwise they're very similar. Still have a lot of resources, fewer resources than the boomers, but I think that goes for most ethnicities and generations. Gen X will signal affiliation more frequently, but at a lower intensity, whereas boomer Jews, they'll do it sometimes, still a lot, less often than Gen X Jews do, but the intensity of it will be a lot higher. As in, a Gen X Jew will make their politics sound conversational even though it isn't. A boomer Jew will feel like they are half coercing you. A lot more active in their aggression, even though it is still passive aggression technically. I know everybody hates boomers. I have my issues with them. The stinky boomers are really stinky, but there are a lot of gems in the boomer generation. So my hatred is not as all-consuming for them as it is with some people. I do hate Gen X pretty intensely. A weird, confusing, misshapen generation. And people act like millennials are confusing. Millennials are not confusing, at least to me, and millennials are very clear in what they are. Now, American Jew millennials, snaky vibes. Not all of them. Maybe it's millennialism, but I feel like they're the generation in which the American Jewish affiliation thing started breaking down. I feel like a millennial Jew would not just stab me in the back, but also be excited too. They still care about affiliations, but it's more like they wear their affiliations. Their affiliation is more of a visibility thing. Or maybe a lifestyle thing, because that's another thing about boomer and Gen X Jews, at least in the United States. As much as they care about affiliation, as much as they push affiliation, oftentimes they don't live according to the affiliations they are pushing. And that's not a bad thing, at least for me, because that makes them easier to get along with. Millennial Jews are very Crips and Bloods with it. But instead of Crips and Bloods, it's more like Suits and Crypto and blogging and Soylent. And when I say millennial here, I mean older millennial, maybe very young Gen X. It's a demographic I'm really uncomfortable with because they feel most focused on wielding power, particularly over others, and not specifically generally. Boomer and Gen X Jews feel more invested in feeling engaged in a conflict while climbing or accomplishing. Millennial Jews, at least in the United States, feel more Patrick Bateman-y. But again, not necessarily Patrick Bateman in appearance, but that vibe. They want to look a certain way and do certain things to beat other people. Now, in my experience, Zoomer American Jews are very interesting, especially ethnically, because it seems like there are two camps. There are Zoomer Jews who are not Jews, You don't have the look, you don't have the sound, you don't have the mindset. You have the heritage, technically, but you're similar to me, actually. It's not even a matter of choosing Americanism, it's a lack of ability to choose anything else. Nothing is more embarrassing than someone who has been racially deluded into the American mutt mass, as I have, and still trying to hold on to your heritage or some shit. Your heritage is like a fable. It's there for you to be aware of, maybe to inform your life a little bit when you're a child. But once you grow up, you're American, and you can view that as a terrible loss or as a wonderful opportunity. And probably you're going to choose the latter, because if you are an American, wallowing in this thing you can't do anything about your entire life and feeling bad about is, maybe you'll like thinking about that to hurt yourself and feel good, but it serves to move you forward, not to stay in that place forever. And I feel bad for biracial people who have to be stuck in that place forever. That's a completely separate video topic. Well, they don't have to stay in that place forever, but it's harder for them not to be in that place. But with this first camp of American Zoomer Jews, you've joined us in the default. Now, the other camp is the interesting one. These Zoomer Jews do look very Jewish, and they have the Jewish horsepower of Boomer Jews, but they're usually very critical of Jewishness, which is interesting. Usually not big fans of Israel, very concerned with the future of the United States. In the Boomer Jewish fashion, but a lot more hands-on, trying to live according to the principles of the affiliations they claim. Now, I think the affiliation thing is still as much of a trap now as it was then, perhaps worse with these Zoomer Jews because they're actually buying into it. But I have a bit of optimism here, because one way to look at this is investment in national concept. And I had to take a piss and think about the way I mean this. I'm optimistic about this because young people, or one section of young people at least, with genetic horsepower care about this country. If the myth of the United States, which we're going to have to, well, we have been believing in, but now that we know how to put it, start believing in a lot more, is to get the best genes and the best souls and the best people in one nation. We already have one of the parts, in the specific configuration and in the general configuration. Even though we haven't properly united yet the way I think we can and hope we will, it's nice seeing people who care about this country. And I'm hoping when the time comes, everybody will care. It's weird the way genetics and culture play out over generations. But I believe in the American myth, and our Jews are part of it. Jesus Christ, this video. Maybe not the name to mention here. Remember in The Sopranos, Uncle Philly my ass? He didn't even hear it when it happened. I'm making this video, and I got a bad feeling. I don't think I'm going to make it out of this one. I was thinking about not uploading this video. What do you say, Chief Rooney? We'll upload it. We'll see what happens. If this video goes off without a hitch, then I'll take that as a sign one day I'll be a senator. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.